Hi everyone, I'm James Bailey from Workshop Coffee. Today we're going to take a little look at the Encore grinder by Baratza. Now this is dubbed their entry-level grinder, which I feel like maybe does it a disservice. It is their entry-level grinder in terms of price, but it is a heavy-hitting powerhouse, very reliable, very durable, and yeah, let's talk through some of the features that it has. So the Encore has a pretty tidy footprint. It's relatively small, it's compact, it's super simple. When you unbox it, all you need to do is stick a rubber ring in the top and pop this switch on. For me, the aesthetic is very simple. You've got a little button on the front where you can just sort of pulse grind, and then you've got the on-off switch on the side when you're grinding a larger dose of coffee. You just adjust the grind very simply by spinning the hopper. Lower numbers giving you a finer grind, coarser numbers giving you a coarser grind. When you unbox it, you'll see that there's an instruction manual there, and that gives you some jumping off points for where they recommend setting the grinder for different brew methods. They're pretty good, but I think actually we can go a little more in detail because, for example, when it says one grind size for V60, is that brewing 15 grams or 45 grams in a V60? If you look in the description below, we'll give you some jumping off points for different brewing methods, including different doses. So the Encore has a pretty small footprint. It's going to fit in your kitchen, tucked away in the corner somewhere. I'd recommend putting it somewhere on the left so you can easily access the switch, which is just on the one side here. But then it's just going to live nice and neat in the corner and be ready to use whenever you want to make a cup of coffee. So the range of grind settings you've got on the Baratza Encore is pretty wide. You can go fine enough to pull some espresso shots. You don't get much flexibility and it's quite hard to dial in to a very specific recipe. So I wouldn't advise using this for espresso, even though it might be capable of pulling a shot. But if you were going to do anything from a really rapid, like 1 minute AeroPress steep, all the way to a 24-hour cold steep or a really large Chemex or something that's very slow draining, you've got all of that wiggle room to play as you adjust the hopper and change your grind setting. Those grind settings that come recommended in the manual that you'll get when you open the box with the grinder in are a good jumping off point, but maybe not quite specific enough for our needs. What I would recommend doing is thinking about how much you're going to be grinding and the style of brewer. So if it's a slow draining or a fast draining pour over, for example, or a steep method, you'll be able to sort of play around and get a feel for where you want to grind. We have made a video about thinking about your grind size. You can watch that here. And it's basically a way of approaching how you're going to set your grinder, going by taste, going by visual cues, all that kind of stuff. So in this little grinder, we've got a 64mm burr set made of hardened steel. They're pretty hard wearing. Like any grinder, over time they might dull and need replacing, but that's actually really easy to do with this particular grinder. And Baratza designed all of it to be replaceable. They even show you exploded schematics online. So even if you're not too handy, you can replace each part it's pretty easy to do that. I tend to always weigh into the lid, just seems the obvious thing for me to weigh into. And that way you can start the grinder and then throw your beans in so that the burrs are actually moving when you throw them in. I've been experiencing that if I put 30 grams into the grinder, I'm getting 30 grams out. It's not really holding on to too much. Part of that is if you can tap the lid, you can sort of push through any spent grounds in the burr set, but it just doesn't seem to hold on to too much coffee. This hopper will hold a whole bag easily, and you could then grind on demand using the front pulse button rather than switching it on and off. But the beans are going to be in the burr set when you start it, which is not ideal. And also the beans will stale a lot faster. So I'd recommend either keeping them in the bag that they come in, resealing the top and putting it somewhere cool and dry, or using something like a canister where you can get rid of the atmosphere, the air inside, like the Fellow Atmos or this one from Mia. So cleaning this is pretty straightforward, keeping it in nice working order. All you need to do is take the grinder to the coarsest setting and the hopper lifts out. And you've got this little rubber guide that you first put in when you unbox the grinder. The burr set just lifts out, the top burr, and there's a little red guide to show you where to put it back in. And this is actually a super nice brush that comes with it. It's very stiff, so you can just like easily get rid of any fines that have built up on the burr set, sweep it back inside as well. You can use a soft brush as well. You could use a hoover, super easy to do. And yeah, when the time comes to replace the burrs, they're fairly easy to get out as well. So it's very, very easy to look after. Make sure you're not tainting your morning cup of coffee with old coffee smell. And yeah, very, very easy to do. So the Baratza Encore, a great entry-level grinder, something that should last you for years and years because you can replace all the parts within it. I think it's great. It's a super compact, hard-wearing little unit, and it's going to make brewing coffee at home that much more enjoyable. So I highly recommend checking out the Baratza Encore. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you soon.